Welcome to Bonehead Guitars. Let's go build some junk. Polished, cleaned the slots, chamfered the slots, and I think we're almost ready to fret. Before we can do that, finish and wax. Here in a little bit, we'll give it probably three coats, 3 or 4 coats, something like that. Just pretty stuff. Well, it's time for side dots. Well, it's time for several things, but might as well do side dots. I already scored my spots. Now the trick here is our wingate binding is pretty thin, so well, you always got to be careful, but now we got to be just a little extra careful. Well, I figure it's about time for inlay. I did a very thin layer of 2-part epoxy on the head and the sides so I can try to get it that wingate good and filled. And then used card scraper for a while, and eventually wound up using some 220 paper to clean up and round off the corners and stuff. Put me down some masking tape, drew my center line, and I masking taped the back of my inlay, which I already had cut out. And now it's time to place it, stick it, cut it out, and dig it out. And I think that's probably about where I want it. Now, I know from experience, I really don't have that much experience inlaying, and I pretty well suck at it, I think. I do know, with wingate's hard and soft striations, you gotta be real careful doing this. But the blade will really sink into the soft stuff and then follow the hard stuff, instead of going where you want it to. It's a good way to tell if you cut all the way around. super tight. I'm going to soften up this back edge just a little tiny bit so it'll squeeze in there and we'll deepen. Alright, with the inlay done, head all shaped and cleaned up and stuff, I figure it can't hurt at this point to start looking at what we're going to do with the body. So, I placed the wings, mounting it about, well not about, exactly at the 16th fret. Just get it clamped in place, just so I can look. And put my body template in place, make sure everything lines up. So I can draw my butt curve. And mark wing placement on the neck blank. But I need to this piece of body scrap, which is about the same thickness as the body. See how all that's gonna fit up next to existing stuff. And the nose of this we're gonna have to taper down ever so slightly. Not a big deal, but I don't want it to overrun the fretboard, especially the dot there. So that's gonna need to taper down just a little bit at the nose, because ideally it'd be perfect if it lined up right with the bottom of that binding, but you know, I don't know how the hell we could do that. Now, I know this is 24 3/4, so with this in place, we really need to look at the height of the fretboard. Well, ideally the height of the fretboard and frets. So I don't want to do anything until it's fretted, and of course it's easier to fret before we get the body on anyway, so we can do all the filing and stuff without having to worry about scarring up the top. But as soon as we get frets on, we can do this with this body scrap in place. We can lay a straight edge on there and see exactly what the alignment is and measure to make sure that we've got about, usually with tunamatics, about 3/4 of an inch is what we need from here to frets. And you know, that gives you 1/16 to a little less than 1/8 adjustment room to get it up to action. And I think from looking at this before, we may have to mount the body wings. They may be just a tiny bit thick. We may need to mount them a little lower, because they would be a lot easier to thickness than the top. But we'll see as soon as we got frets on. But you know, I figured it couldn't hurt at the moment to, you know, look at it. Try to keep looking at it and keeping it in mind before we get there, so I have a fairly clear plan when it's time. I don't know, it doesn't matter how many times I do this, I always, you know, worry about it and measure it as if it were the first time, because there's always variations and all kinds of stuff. Anyway, next step, fretting, I guess. Meanwhile, we got the inlay done. I did have a little bit of scratch, but hopefully that'll sand out after the fact. But with the inlay in place and the nut in place, which is pretty well shaped exactly to that neck, and we've got it profiled as well, all the pieces are coming together. Like I said, I mean, we do need to actually drill the tuners, which I don't have at the moment, but other than that, pretty much everything on the neck and head is basically done. I need to buff it up, make sure it's going to look as nice as it possibly can be, and then we need to fret it, and then we can, you know, move on to body. And once we get to the body, Then we can actually make it start looking like an actual guitar. So, yay! What's coming along? It's gonna be awfully sassy. Thanks for sticking around. Hope you enjoyed it. Like this video. Go subscribe. We'll be back here next time. We got more stuff to do.